Alright guys, John and Brian from Team Blind MST here with the new ban list. We're just going to give it a breakdown, give our thoughts on it. Maybe we'll provide a little bit of insight that other people haven't given yet. We know we're a little bit late, but we've both been really busy with things like school and work. So, alright, here we go.
So, banned. Morphing Jar number 1 and number 2.
I thought this was interesting because we just got that Jackpot 7, which is a new win condition that seems to only really be viable as a win condition in a deck around the Morphing Jars. But I think that Konami just was trying to remove some of the bullshit like they did when they hit Self-Destruct button and just things like that.
You see Self-Destruct button got banned in the OCG like out of nowhere because of Nats or Worlds or something like that.
Oh, I did not. I was unaware of that.
They out of nowhere, they were like, oh yeah, we're also banning this card too, and something else too. Oh, Rainbow Life. Rainbow Life. I forgot what it does. Look it up. I forgot what it does. It's something kind of dumb. There's a loop with it with a monster where you get infinite. Oh, it's the Colossal Fighter loop. Like when you summon Colossal Fighter and you keep whenever. Oh, you discard a card, and anytime you would take damage, you gain it instead.
Oh, okay.
So it's just infinite life points. They banned that in Self-Destruct button. They were like, nah, this ain't going to Nats or Worlds.
Another note on the jars though is I feel that all of the jars should just kind of be banned at this point because they always end up getting hit or banned, and I think Absorbing Jar is going to make the list as soon as artifacts come out, because if you don't know what that card does, basically when it's flipped you destroy it. It's a heavy storm, but then you draw cards for every card destroyed, so artifacts just go like triple plus and then sack your opponent really hard with. So I feel like that card will be seeing the ban list within maybe 2 lists. And alright, moving on.
Honestly, though, really, Konami doesn't like their win condition cards. I don't know why they put them in the game. Like, they don't actually want people to win with those. It's weird. But Morphing Jar should have been banned a while ago. It's one of those. It's a degenerative card. Like, it's stupid. Any card that draws 5 is just kind of stupid and really shouldn't be in the game. Like, all right.
Rest in peace, Empty Jar.
That's it for the band. Yeah.
Yeah. No spells, no traps, nothing in the extra deck.
Cards that are limited. The first one, Coach Soldier WOLFBARK. Thank hallelujah.
Alright, being a Fire Fist player, how do you feel about this, Brian?
Best thing that could have happened to us, honestly. Honestly, because there were 3 viable targets if they wanted to actually hurt the deck. WOLFBARK, Bear, and Tenki. Tenki just got confirmed the day after the ban list, or the day of the ban list, of a super reprint. It's getting a gold rare reprint, and it still promotes Boojins, Kawaki Marus, other kinds of shit. So they're not going to hit that just yet. They'll probably hit it soon. Probably after Nats. Unfortunately, but also if they limited Bear or semi-limited, if they limited Bear, the deck would be dead. Like it would. I couldn't even imagine. Like I'd rather play with 1 Tenki than 1 Bear. Terrible. But so WOLFBARK was any good player, unless you're playing the bullshit +1 build, which I think is just a deck that bad players think is good and don't know how to deal with. You don't run more than 2 Coach Soldiers anyway. I lost 1 card in my deck. I'm down to 39 cards come April 1st, so I'm doing fine.
Is Dragon a viable replacement for Coach Soldier then?
Not entirely, because he does require board presence already. Like, he does require the fire formations, and yesterday at Locals, I opened Double Dragon, and he's not something you want to have. Like, he can be dead draw, so he's not entirely an option. There's not really going to be a good replacement for Coach Soldier, because I'm already running 2 dragons. If you were not running any dragons, you could put 1 in and you'd do fine. But if you're running, 2 dragons is fine. So there's not really going to be a good replacement for WOLFBARK as of now.
Right, so alright. So verdict, the only thing that this really affected was +1 Fire Fist, which was a deck that was designed specifically to beat certain meta decks, and as those decks, it was just losing popularity anyways. I feel like this is a good direction for the Fire Fist archetype as a whole. Now people actually have to run Fire Fist, not Bear, WOLFBARK, and friends.
And buddies, yeah. Limited. MERMAIL ABYSSGUNDE.
This is almost laughable.
No, according to Joe, they're water and fire are dead.
If they really wanted to hit MERMAIL, there were 3 real targets, being Sphere, Lindy, and Teus.
Okay, if you hit Sphere or Lindy, the deck kind of dies. Like,
that's fine. This deck's been around too long. Konami's no longer making money off of it.
That's fine.
Unless they finally give us Diamond Dust, and their selling point of Diamond Dust is kill MERMAILs with this card right before we actually hit MERMAILs for real for once.
Why would you why would you run Diamond Dust? Like, you already run Macro, Defissure, and Soldier. And those three, that's 3 cards that already kill it and other things. I don't know. Just, Diamond Dust is kind of a dumb card to me. I don't think it's even that good.
The point is, I do not feel like Gundy was an actual hit to Mermails at all. I remember when they didn't run Gundy because they just didn't need her. And a lot of people, nobody runs 3 of her. A lot of people only run 1 of her anyways. Really, the only thing she does for the deck is lets them... Sometimes she allows you to OTK, but you're usually going to do it anyways.
She's a recovery tool. What they did was, I like this list a lot because what they did was they hit things in the good meta decks without killing them, but they hit the things that gave them recovery. Whenever you look at it, WOLFBARK he's a 1 card in your hand, rank 4 exceed. And with Tiger King, that gives you more pluses with Tenkies and stuff. But the point is, he's a 1 card exceed, which is it was pretty stupid. Gundy's the recovery, but Gundy's not that big of a hit, honestly, because most people only ran 2 right now, and you can run Salvage. There's plenty of other, like, Mermails are fine. Fire Fist took a little bit of a hit, but Mermails are fine. Now I know a deck that they actually killed.
Rekindling is now limited.
Actually, it's funny, they neutered fucking Fire Kings indirectly.
Yes, they did, and that's what I was going to get to. WOLFBARK at 1, Fire Kings have less extra deck plays. Rekindling at 1, Fire Kings can't just like come out of nowhere bullshit. But what this really did was this made 3-axis almost unplayable.
They lost a derpy card.
Which they shouldn't have been using in the first place, because if Konami would stop fucking making these random fucking fire cards 200 defense and purposely making them targets for Rekindling, this never would have been an issue. But when you have a 1-card monster, 5-target monster reborn, that's like,
oh damn, Drox got hit too, actually, because of that. Nasty.
It's just
eat your heart out, Dennis Martin.
Yeah, it should have been gone a long time ago, and it's just finally came around. Another thing, I'm glad Lavo Quasar is now buried, which is wonderful, because that was the stupidest fucking deck I've ever. 1-card Quasar? That doesn't make sense. Quasar is a card that rewards loops, but not just like 1 fucking card. Like that deck was fucking disrespectful to Quasar, and like, you could not have respect for that card and run Lavo Quasar. Like, it just didn't make sense. So that is gone.
Talking about Fire Kings, though, because that's actually a meta deck and something of relevance to talk about. The fact they're not dead, but they've lost. Only bad players really lose the Garunix nuking the board every turn, or a Garunix loop, because that's not entirely hard to get over. The thing that made them, like, Fire Kings is stupid was they had Rekindling. They had Barong, Yaksha, and Coach Soldier, and Bear to a lesser extent, but they had Rekindling for the Yaksha and Barong, and they had what's the other card? They had Coach Soldier, but Rekindling let them go into the rank 4s instant. Like, Rekindling let them go into all of their rank 4 exceeds stupidly. So now that they've lost that, the deck's kind of going to be sit on Garunix and protect him. But the fact that Onslaught's still an amazing card at 3 and Circle is still at 3, they'll be fine. Well, not fine, but it's not a dead deck. The way it's played now is terrible, but... And a card that got hit that killed an archetype, unfortunately.
Infernity Barrier is now at 1. I can't say I'm entirely surprised.
I'm a little surprised.
Gravekeepers just got their own Infernity Barrier, but the difference is we can only use 1 of them a turn.
That's not even a lie.
I kind of saw this coming. Also, ours isn't searchable.
Yeah, that's
why. We can't open up, put a bunch of bullshit on board, and then sit on 3 Solemn Judgments.
With 1 Archfiend and a Void Ogre.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, they're getting Beals. Beals is coming out in the next goal too. Is that something we have to worry about? I mean,
Beals is bad. I don't even want.
Beals isn't a bad card, but it's an annoying ass card. It just can't be destroyed. Period. And it has 3,000 attack. So maybe it was good that they did this. Plus, I feel Pendulum Summoning is going to make Infernities a lot better, because now they have the potential for monsters that, if they need to, they can just play them as spells to just drop cards from their hand. And if they set up a Pendulum, they can drop dead monsters in their hand just by Pendulum Summoning them. So I feel like this was actually a big preemptive hit to stop Infernities from just doing ridiculous things.
What does suck, actually, though, is that the deck's relatively dead, like, because that was their win condition. Getting 3 barriers on the field and your opponent knowing that was the win condition, because unless you had an already decent pre-established board, you weren't getting over all 3 of those things in 1 turn with just a hand. Like, nah, this wasn't happening. The problem, though, is that the reason why they hit it was because it is a searchable Solemn Judgment, essentially, but it's one of those cards where it's bad. You sit there and you don't want to go to a regional and lose because somebody opened up against, like, you played an Infernity player and they opened up and they had barriers. Like, you don't want to lose at a big scale tournament because of 3 barriers. Like, somebody getting a decent hand and getting a loop off.
Infernity, with 3 barriers, Infernity is just one of those sacky decks that it's almost like solitaire. Like, you'll sit down at a table and you will lose just because your opponent drew the 6 starting hand that they needed to, and they won the dice roll. Like, they put no effort into it. They just recognized, oh, I have these cards in my hand. That means I win this duel. Let me do this preconceived loop.
Infernity is a deck that you either win against really easy and hard, or you lose hard to them. Like, there's not really a grind game with them.
No, and so this is probably better overall for the game.
Semi-limited.
Necroface is a back end too. Do I think this changes anything? No. Nobody runs Necroface. Maybe some people will find a way to exploit it, but the only real thing you did anyways was Gold Sark for Necroface, banish a bunch of cards, fuck up the dragons. Yeah, like, so I don't think that this makes a difference. And Heretic Seal of Convocation went to 2.
Terrible hit.
I think that was stupid. I wish they wouldn't even have touched it, because now people would be like, oh, they hit Heretic Dragons. No, they fucking did it.
They really didn't.
So you have 2 Rotas now instead of 3. You really don't need 3. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't run 3 if you had 3, but you sure as hell don't need 3. Like, they could have hit Tefnuit. They could have hit a Tomb. Even if they would have hit the fucking trap card that gives them a fucking E-Dragon in return, would have been better than hitting this card to 2. Like, I'm actually mad about this. Like, I take this personally as an insult from Konami.
Like, I don't know. Heretic Seal of Convocation was not the card to hit, but at the same time, even if they had limited Tefnuit, they still have the 3 Heretic Seals. So it was a weird situation where it's a hard deck for them to hit, because they kind of had 2 to 3 things they actually need to get, like, semi-limited or limited to actually slow them down.
I personally see another hit coming on the next ban list. I see specifically Convocation going to 1, and then another hit in the deck, because a lot of times Konami will do that. They'll jokingly nerf something, and then they'll hit it continuously on the next ban list. So maybe that's what's going to happen.
All these decks are getting hit come the next after Nats, because they're gonna want to promote the new shit coming out with all the new Pendulum summoning. Like, now,
especially since the ban list ends that last day of Nats. So the new ban list starts the day after Nats.
And unlimited Magical Stone Excavation,
completely irrelevant.
Fairly irrelevant.
Doesn't even. It was at 2. Now it's at 3. You could never have the hand control to use 3. I mean, maybe some people with, like, sacky decks, but I mean, the only thing that I could specifically see this have been being run at 3 at was Empty Jar, and that's gone now. So
that's literally gone.
That's literally gone. Like,
and Primal Seed at 3. If you really want to run an inconsistent OTK, go ahead.
Basically, they took out one sacky bullshit deck and added another completely just trolly deck. I don't know if you guys know what Primal Seed does, but it just lets you add 2 of your remove from play cards to your hand. So if you get, like, because you need a BLS on board to summon it first, to use it first of all, which is at 1. So that makes it kind of hard. But
you need Macro, which is
or Banisher the Radiance, and then just any card that burns your opponent or gains life for yourself.
No, what's Banisher the Radiance?
Banisher the Radiance is all cards.
What is it though? What's its type? Is it
It's light. It's light fairy.
That's attribute type fairy.
What are you talking about, man?
Because you use limiter removal with Primal Seed.
No. You can use limiter removal, but anything. Like, if you have, like, say, Poison the Old Man in your hand, Ukazi, Danketo the Cure Master, anything, you just loop out and you put your life points at, like, 46 million, or you burn your opponent for however many life points they have.
I've seen the one that just gives one monster a bunch of attacks.
You can also pump up, like, a fucking
Cyber Dragon,
or anything you want to infinite amounts in attack per game, but burning, it's a really, like, trolly FTK OTK card.
There's always a deck like that.
There's always a deck like that. They took one away from us. They gave one back.
You run into it online and you kind of get salty, but at the same time, it's a thing.
Yeah.
So, cards that weren't hit that you wanted to get hit, John. What do you think? Or not cards that were cards that were hit. What did you want to get hit? Actually,
honestly, I thought Sphere to 1 would have been really good, because I feel like the deck, it wouldn't kill Mermails, but it would stop a lot of their just consistent OTKs. Like, that's kind of a 1 card. Like, if they draw a Sphere, they're not worried about the duel. Like, if they resolve Sphere, they just continue to do whatever the fuck they want to do. Like, I feel like Sphere was the hit if they actually wanted to hit Mermails.
What about, I'm talking about, there's a deck that you know of that did not get touched on this ban list, and it's a problem.
The 4 best decks last format, which by the way was a very balanced format, and I feel like that's not going to change very much because
there's going to be a slight tilt in
favor of this.
The OTK decks.
Yes, the OTK decks
kind of didn't get hit enough.
Specific 3 OTK decks now: MERMAILs, Heretics. Neither one, in my opinion, was very much hurt. I don't think Heretics were hurt at all. GEARGIAGEAR is more even mentioned on this fucking ban list, which I understand that they are getting big support. They're getting GEARGIAGEAR, and if you're good, you realize that GEARGIAGEAR is not the card that we should really all be worried about, but they're getting MK3. And with GEARGIAGEAR still at 3 and MK3, that's pretty much GEARGIAGEAR has just become a one-turn, if I resolve this, I win the game card. Even more than it already was. It was already a one-card extra deck card, but with Optimus Prime for the extra deck now, the XG coming out, like, GEARGIAGEARs are going to be disgusting. And I thought that they would at least hit the Curry aspect, because that would make sense, because then they would be pushing the GEARGIAGEAR aspect that's coming out. But, like, the deck's just too fucking consistent. And especially when they're running around with things like Trap Stun, it's not good for the game. It really isn't. Like, GEARGIAGEAR just doesn't make sense why that card wasn't hit. And I just feel like they should have hit GEARGIAGEARs. Like, at least GEARGIAGEAR.
I'm mad Gear wasn't hit because it's kind of like Code Soldier WOLFBARK.
It's a lot like Code Soldier. It's a one-card extra deck.
It's a one-card rank, like literally a rank 4. And the only reason they didn't hit it was because, like John said, they want to promote the new stuff coming out. But the problem is we don't have a release date confirmed on that yet. But I'm expecting it to come out. Maybe we'll get some of it in Primal Origins or something. I felt like we would have had the structure deck already confirmed, like we had the Lightsworn one finally confirmed, but I don't know. But I'm expecting it to come soonish because of them not getting touched at all, which is ridiculous because I still don't even know what to side against them because Trap Stun makes side deck cards irrelevant.
Which is another card that I thought for sure would be on this ban list, Trap Stun.
Well, we also thought they'd hit GEARGIAGEARs or something.
Right, but Trap Stun specifically... cards like Trap Stun are very, very bad for the game. I know why it wasn't hit, because Konami are douchebags and they decided to reprint it in the Gold Premium series. But this card basically says your opponent cannot use trap cards. And I know it's a blanket statement for both people, like nobody can use trap cards, but you're not going to use it in a situation where you need to resolve your trap cards anyways.
Well,
and if you do, you're going to chain your trap cards to it.
Let's not be serious. Remember the guy that had the Fiendish chain on my Coat Soldier and Trap Stun me?
But he was a bad player. Like, he's an idiot. Like, if you're an idiot, you're an idiot. But if you're facing against GEARGIAGEAR and they have an armor, a Trap Stun, and a gear set, and then the turn passes back to them, they win the duel. They're going to Trap Stun, chain GEARGIAGEAR, go off, OTK you, clear your board, take control. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, that deck is way too powerful. But in other decks, Heretic Dragons, alright, flip Trap Stun, proceed to OTK you. I feel like Trap Stun is a card that needed to go away because it is basically Cold Wave.
They don't run Trap Stun. They just run Skill Drain and proceed to stomp you. Skill Drain is also a Trap Stun in it. Yeah. And people are like, oh, then they'll just run Royal Decree. No, they won't, because these decks can't afford to run Royal Decree. They're not Boojins. They're not just going to sit on one thing. Speaking of Boojins,
they need to use their traps.
Speaking of Boojins, that might be the only way I see GEARGIAGEAR not destroying the format really, along with mainly GEARGIAGEAR is if Boojins continue to play the way they do. If they don't, once they get Primal Origins, because in the OCG, Primal Origins didn't take off well, so they're not really running Harume or Materasu, so they didn't go with the full push
OTK
hard
Boojins.
Not really OTK, but it's basically
you can OTK pretty hard with those.
You can, but it's mostly just put a bunch of shit on board and then continue to beat you every turn with it. Yeah, but it can lead into an OTK though pretty easy.
For those of you who don't know, I'm pretty sure everybody knows. In Primal Origins, Boojins are getting everything they need to make the transition. They're going to completely 180. They're going to go from the most control, lockdown, I sit on one monster, you can't summon monsters, you use trap cards, bullshit deck that they are right now. And they're going to become I'm going to put 4 monsters on board, 3 of them being XYZs, and then I'm going to still have field or hand presence because I did this with all cards that were already on my field or in the graveyard. They're getting so much faster once Harume comes out.
But the question is, are they going to choose it, or are they just going to continue to just kind of stun us?
I feel that
if they continue to stun us, GEARGIAGEAR aren't going to be able to do anything.
I feel like the fast turbo Boojins, I guess you could call them, are 100 times better than the stuff they have right now.
I think it's more respectable to run and do well with, but I don't actually see it taking off in competitive play. And Dark Strike Fire didn't come back because TCG doesn't actually have the errata confirmed. We'll probably get it eventually, but I mean, come after Nats, the OCG is gonna be playing a different game than us without drawing one in the draw phase for first turn. So
This is true.
So we'll have to see and find out. But well, that's our thoughts on it. Overall, I thought it was actually, except for the fact that GEARGIAGEAR didn't get hit, I thought it was a really good, amazing, and continuously balanced list.
I'm glad that Konami didn't really hit anything too hard. I also thought that most of the choices they picked, well, Rekindling and Code Soldier were both good hits, I felt. I still think that Gundy and Heretic Seal were just awful choices, and I think that I feel like Konami didn't even want to put out a ban list, honestly. And they just said, well, what can we hit that really doesn't change the meta at all? Maybe shift the balance a little, but the top 4 decks I feel are still going to be the top 4 decks. The only difference is now people are going 3.5 Fire Fist, which I feel was
I hope not.
better.
I hope it kind of goes rogue. I'd be okay with it going rogue.
And
what do you think of Harpies? You have Harpies.
I don't feel like anything was hit hard enough for Harpies to push themselves in it. I think Harpies are sitting around tier about 1.2. They're a little bit better than 1.5. They're definitely not tier 2, but they're not tier 1.
I put them tier 2 because they're half rogue, honestly. People don't actually run them that much. You see maybe one a regional. I've only dueled like maybe once a regional against them.
Which is surprising because that deck has an insane amount of explosive potential.
It is actually.
Recovery.
It's just player choice. Players choose to run other things.
This is true. Well, everyone that would be running Harpies are probably running Mermails or Couriers or Brofist.
I see them about as much as I see Constellars, and Constellars are easily considered rogue.
Yes.
It's a rogue deck, but it still is a good deck. What are you going to run this format? For Nats? This is our Nats build, too, so what are you going to run for?
I'm taking Gravekeepers to Nationals.
Hell yeah, brother.
I mean, fuck everybody. I'm taking that shit all the way. I actually can't play, like, the 3rd day if I make it anyways, or even the 2nd day because I have a wedding that weekend, but I'll go stop everybody the 1st day with Gravekeepers and
hell yeah, brother.
show off my mat. So,
hell yeah.
Alright, well, thanks for watching. Comment, tell us if you think you agree with us. Tell us if you think we're stupid and why, because we appreciate both kinds of criticism. It's always interesting to see what other people have to say. Thanks. John and Brian signing out.
Laters.